90% of the world's millionaires built their wealth through one asset class. Not the stock market, not crypto, real estate. And yet most people who try real estate fail within their first 2 years. So what do the wealthy know that the rest of us don't? Let's start with the uncomfortable truth. Passive income from real estate is not passive, at least not at first. The gurus selling you the dream of sitting on a beach while rent checks roll in are leaving out the most important part. The part where you do the work to build the machine. Here's the thing though, they're not entirely wrong either. Real estate can absolutely generate income that flows to you every month without you trading hours for dollars. But only after you understand the system and put in the initial setup. Think of it less like passive income and more like building a vending machine. Setting up that machine takes time, money, and knowledge. But once it's running, it generates revenue while you sleep. A rental property is the same. The first year is the machine building phase. And that's where most new investors give up, right before the money starts flowing. So in this video, we're going to break down the exact system that creates real, lasting real estate wealth. No hype, no shortcuts, just the mechanics that actually work. A strategy that has created more real estate millionaires than any other in the last 20 years has 4 letters. BRRR. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. Here's how it works. You start by buying a distressed property, a house that needs work, priced well below market value. You put in the work to rehab it. New floors, fresh paint, updated kitchen. Now it's worth significantly more than what you paid and what you spent on repairs. Step 3. You rent it. Ideally, your rent covers your mortgage payment, your property taxes, your insurance, and still puts a few $100s per month in your pocket. That's cash flow. But here's where the magic happens. Step 4 is the refinance. Because you've forced the value up through the renovation, a bank will now lend you money against that new higher value. In many cases, you can pull out all of the money you originally invested, and sometimes more. Then you take that money and repeat the process. Buy another property, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. This is how investors go from 1 property to 10 properties without continually needing large sums of new capital. Your first deal funds your second funds your third, and so the portfolio grows. The BRR method turns real estate from a slow savings vehicle into a self-funding wealth machine. One of the biggest myths in real estate is that you need a lot of money to get started. You don't. You need creativity and knowledge. Let's talk about 3 strategies that allow you to acquire real estate with little or no money down. The first is house hacking. The concept is simple. You buy a small multi-unit property, live in one unit, and rent out the others. The FHA loan allows you to do this with as little as 3.5% down. Sometimes on a property worth $400,000 or more. Your tenants essentially pay your mortgage. You build equity, and you live for free or close to it. That's not a side hustle, that's a life hack. The second strategy is seller financing. Instead of getting a loan from a bank, you negotiate directly with the property seller to finance the purchase. They receive monthly payments from you instead of getting a lump sum at closing. This works especially well with motivated sellers who own properties free and clear. There's no bank qualifying you, no formal underwriting, just 2 people making a deal. The third strategy is buying subject to the existing mortgage. This means you take ownership of a property while the seller's mortgage stays in place. You make their mortgage payments. This is not fraud. It's a legal, legitimate strategy used by investors every single day. It works best when sellers need to exit quickly due to job loss, divorce, or relocation. These strategies won't work on every deal, but learning them expands your toolkit dramatically. Now let's talk about numbers. Because the biggest mistake new investors make is buying a property that feels good emotionally, but bleeds cash every month. Here's the formula for analyzing a rental deal. Start with gross rental income, the total rent you'd collect in a year if the property were fully occupied. Then subtract vacancy. Even great landlords in great markets should account for a 5 to 10% vacancy rate. Then subtract operating expenses. These include property management, typically 8 to 12% of rent, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and repairs. A good rule of thumb, budget 1% of the property's value per year for repairs. Then subtract your debt service, your mortgage payment. What's left is your net operating income minus debt service equals cash flow. If that number is positive, you have a cash flowing property. If it's negative, you're feeding the property out of your own pocket every month. Now here's the nuance. Not every negative cash flow property is a bad deal. In high appreciation markets, some investors intentionally accept small losses today for large equity gains tomorrow. But for building true passive income, you want properties with consistent positive cash flow, ideally $200 to $300 per door per month at minimum. That number sounds small until you have 10 doors, and now you've built $3,000 per month in relatively passive income. Here's what nobody tells you about scaling a real estate portfolio. The hardest deal is always the first one. Not because it's technically the most complex, but because you're fighting uncertainty, self-doubt, and the fear of making a mistake with a large sum of money. But once that first property is generating cash flow and you've survived the learning curve, everything changes. Your confidence grows, your systems improve, you understand the underwriting, you build relationships with contractors, property managers, and lenders. The second deal comes faster. The third, faster still. The investors who reach 10 properties don't have some secret advantage. They simply refuse to stop at one. They applied the same analysis criteria to every deal. They stayed conservative with their numbers, and they reinvested their cash flow rather than spending it. By the time you reach 10 units, even modestly cash-flowing properties, averaging $200 per unit per month, create $2,000 per month in income. That's $24,000 a year without selling a single property, without day trading, without a side hustle. That's the machine. That's what real estate passive income actually looks like. Not overnight, but over time, and built one deal at a time. Real estate has created more ordinary millionaires than any other investment in history. Not because it's easy, because it's learnable, repeatable, and when done right, it builds wealth that compounds for decades. If this breakdown helped you understand how the system really works, subscribe to Property Playbook. Every week, we bring you the deep dives, the real numbers, and the strategies that actually move the needle. Hit that subscribe button and let's build your real estate future, one deal at a time.